It might actually surprise you, blow your mind even, to think about the singing in musical theater. It looks so effortless up there.
Oh, absolutely.
But doing it 8 times a week, it's not just talent. It's it's incredibly demanding. Singers need this huge range of styles, plus like athlete-level stamina.
Exactly. Which brings us to the real question, doesn't it? What's
Mhm.
actually involved in the training that gets someone ready for that kind of, well, grind?
That's precisely what we're digging into today.
Yeah, we're using singing in musical theater as our guide. It's this great book, really. It gives you a look behind the curtain at how people teach singing for the stage.
Uh-huh.
It's basically a collection of interviews with some, really top-tier professional singing teachers. Folks from the US, the UK, Australia.
Right, and that's the key thing, isn't it? We're not just getting one teacher's opinion. The
Yeah.
book takes these conversations, and then the author, Joan Melton, adds her own observations.
Yeah.
It creates this uh, really rich picture, so many different approaches.
It's like sitting in on master classes all over the world, but, without the jet lag.
Ah, exactly.
And for you listening, this is kind of a shortcut. We're aiming to help you get your head around the complexities of this training without it feeling like homework.
Yeah.
We've sort of pulled out the key insights, those moments that make you go, aha, the stuff that really shows the sheer skill and hard work behind every performance you see.
So our mission today, pretty simple, really. We want to unpack the core ideas about voice training for musical theater that these experts shared.
The goal is to give you a much clearer sense of what it actually takes to command that stage with your voice.
Okay, let's dive in. Where do these teachers even start?
Well, the book asks them about 6 main things: alignment, breathing, range, resonance, articulation, and connection, which
Right.
is, the acting part of it.
Yeah.
But what's really fascinating is seeing what they look for first. Right when they meet a new student, it varies quite a bit.
Like Elizabeth Howard, for instance. She seems to look for almost like innate qualities. Vocal freedom, being expressive, just loving to sing.
Yeah, those initial signs tell her a lot about their baseline. Freedom suggests maybe not too much built-in tension, expressiveness, loving it. That shows a connection to the art itself. That's a good place to start.
Makes sense. Then you have someone like Wendy LeBorin. She seems to cast a wider net initially.
Right. She's looking at the sound, sure, but also posture, personality, how open they are to change, what their goals are.
And she uses their speaking voice, too, as a clue.
Exactly. Your everyday speaking voice can reveal tons about habitual muscle use, breath patterns, just general vocal health if you speak with a lot of tension.
You probably sang with it, too.
Pretty likely, yeah. It shows how you're using the equipment day to day.
Joan later sounds like she has, like, X-ray vision for the physical stuff.
Yeah, she's watching posture, breath, jaw, tongue, larynx position, looking for any unnecessary tension right away, like a vocal detective, as you said,
Why is that so critical right at the start?
because it all connects. Bad alignment here can cause tension somewhere else. It messes with vocal freedom, efficiency, the whole system.
And Gillian Case, she looks at habits, too, right? Both
Right.
speaking and singing habits.
Like, is their speaking voice breathy, creaky? How do they start a sung note? How do they handle their range? Is there constriction? Pat Wilson goes even broader, starting with students' spirit,
Spirit, meaning,
kind of their overall energy, their readiness to actually do the work. It highlights that it's not just about the technical nuts and bolts.
right, the mindset matters.
Absolutely. Are they willing to learn, to try things? That hugely impacts progress.
Okay, this detail about Joan later really jumped out at me. She watches their warm-up,
Uh-huh.
and she gets worried if it's longer than 10 or 15 minutes. That
Then
sounds really short. Why?
it points to efficiency, I think. A focused warm-up hits the key things, quickly activating breath, getting the voice going without tiring you out before you even start singing properly. A long, rambling warm-up might actually be counterproductive.
So quality over quantity.
Pretty much. Target the essentials.
And her methods sound very physical. Hands-on adjustments, holding chairs overhead, sliding down walls.
Yeah, those exercises are designed to give the student a physical feeling of correct alignment and release. It's different from just saying stand up straight. It's about embedding that sensation in their body.
Creating muscle memory.
Yeah, exactly. Experiencing it.
Okay, so they've done the initial assessment. They're working on these basics. How do these teachers then think about putting it all together?
Yeah.
You can't just have good breathing or good resonance, right? It has to merge.
Precisely. Wendy LeBourne talks a lot about that. You might learn skills in isolation, breathing here, resonating there, acting over here.
Compartmentalized.
Yeah. But the real goal is integrating all of it seamlessly, so it becomes one unified thing in performance. Moving from conscious thought about technique to just doing it, embodied performance.
Needs to become automatic almost.
So the performer isn't thinking, okay, now breathe, now resonate. Neil Seamer actually has a specific order he often uses.
Yeah, with that.
He tends to start with alignment, get the body set up right, then opening the vocal tract, then breath, and then connecting that breath to sound phonation.
Interesting, step by step.
It builds a solid foundation, you know? Each step supports the next. Get the physical structure right first, then add breath, then sound.
Mary Hammond really emphasizes the prep work, meticulous practice.
Yes, she believes great performance is born from that groundwork, but she also says technique is there to serve the imagination, the expression.
Oh, okay. Technique isn't the end goal.
No, it's the tool. And she has this great phrase, musical theater zinging.
Zing, what is that?
Think of it like a brightness, a focused, clear resonance that helps the voice project over an orchestra, fill the room but without sounding pushed. Often feels a bit more forward in the face.
Like a vocal spotlight? I like that.
Yeah. Now, Gillian Case has a slightly different angle sometimes. She suggests a lot of vocal problems aren't deep psychological blocks.
But more physical habits.
Often, yeah. Muscular imbalances, inefficient patterns. She stresses understanding the student's own ideas about their voice first. What's their internal map?
That's smart. You need to know where they're starting from conceptually.
Right, to guide them better. And Jason Barry Smith uses this analogy I really like.
Go on.
He says all the bits of technique, breath, resonance, all that need to become so organic, so second nature.
Like breathing itself.
Exactly. So the performer can stop thinking about how they're singing and just focus completely on communicating the story, the emotion. Technique becomes subconscious.
Freeing them up to just perform.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Total immersion in the character and the audience connection.
Okay, let's get into some specifics. Elizabeth Howard sounds very methodical.
She really is. She works through breathing, support, different vocal colors, registers, mixing the voice, vibrato, even things like coloratura for classical agility, and blues scales for contemporary styles.
Covering all the bases.
Yeah, her aim seems to be equipping singers to handle pretty much any style musical theater throws at them.
And she even considers the singer's image. Hair, clothes, practicing in costume.
It's a holistic view, isn't it? Performance isn't just the sound. It's visual. It's how you embody the role. Practicing how you'll perform helps integrate it all and builds confidence.
That makes a lot of sense. Wendy LeBourne uses imagery a lot, bridging the science and the art.
She has a background in speech pathology, too, so she connects the two. Things like imagining an inverted megaphone for resonance or placing the sound in the mask.
Making abstract concepts feel more real.
Exactly. It guides the singer's physical awareness without getting lost in jargon. She also brings up something interesting about Pilates. Caution for young singers, because the typical Pilates breathing patterns aren't always ideal for singing breath support. They can sometimes be different.
That's a specific detail you might not think about.
Right. And she really pushes singers to understand microphones and, crucially, to speak up for themselves with sound engineers.
Oh, that's huge. So practical.
Absolutely vital in modern musicals. The mic is part of your instrument, and you need to know how to use it and communicate about it.
Joan Lauder has this two-box model.
Yeah.
Based on Joe Estill's work about effort.
Yeah, basically helping singers feel the difference between necessary, efficient effort and unnecessary, potentially harmful tension. Finding that sweet spot.
Okay.
And she uses these little jump starts like humming, lip trills, singing through a straw.
Like hitting a reset button.
Kind of. Ways to quickly find a more relaxed, efficient vocal production. She also directly links articulation to the meaning of the words.
Not just making sounds clearly.
No, making them clearly for a reason. And she uses acting assignments to improve technique.
How does that work? Acting to fix singing.
Well, imagine a singer needs to sound urgent. Getting them to really feel and act urgent can naturally make their articulation more forward, more energized. That affects resonance, breath. The intention drives the physical change.
Clever. Very integrated.
Very. Then there's Jeanette LaVetrie, even though she works a lot with rock and pop singers.
Her approach is acoustic, based on listening.
Primarily, yes. She trusts her ear in what she sees the singer doing, direct feedback. The priority is always free, healthy sound production, not forcing a specific stylistic sound at the expense of health.
Health first, style second.
That's the foundation. Get the production healthy, then explore styles authentically. She also talks about balancing all 6 of those elements we mentioned earlier: alignment, breath, etc.
It all has to work together.
And she acknowledges that sometimes in the real world, you might need to make healthy compromises to meet the demands of a specific show or song. It's not always about perfection.
It's about sustainability.
Good word for it. Finding a way to do the job healthily.
Mary Saunders Barton, she focuses a lot on resonance, creating a thoroughly blended voice.
Yes, and she has this expansive view of range, almost like it's unlimited if the technique is right.
Wow, unlimited.
Her breathing work uses imagery and movement, aiming for free, consistent airflow. And she's very direct about articulation in theater, clear speech. Smart vowel choices are key for being understood and for vocal ease.
And her priority order is interesting. Acting first.
Acting first, then singing, then dancing, it really puts the storytelling front and center.
Underscores what musical theater is really about.
Yeah, and Neil Seymour, he's big on tailoring the songs students work on to what they actually love.
Their passion.
Right. Don't force back on someone who lives for Sondheim, basically, unless they want to explore it. Feed their musicality, work with what excites them.
Nurture that internal drive.
Exactly. You get more commitment, more organic development that way.
Okay, thinking about the industry itself, how are the demands changing? Mary Saunders Barton pointed out singers need to sing higher now.
Yeah, and that styles are getting, as she put it, edgier, riskier. Contemporary scores often push the boundaries more.
So how does that change the training? What do singers need now?
Definitely a stronger, more flexible upper range, and the ability to handle more complex vocal lines, more dynamic shift, different vocal colors. Versatility is key.
She also mentioned the passaggio, that breakpoint in the voice,
That transition zone.
and how the lines are blurring between traditional voice types, the fax system. Everyone needs access to everything.
Increasingly, yes. For you listening, the passaggio is like that gear shift between lower and higher registers. Traditionally, singers were often classified by where their voice sat comfortably and how they managed that shift.
Soprano, tenor, etc.
Right. But now the ideal is often a smoother, more integrated sound across the whole range. Singers need techniques that let them navigate everything seamlessly, not just stay in one box.
So less about being just a bell voice or just a legit voice.
More about having all those options available and blended. Lisa Ryan McLaughlin sees that 2 singers need to cross genres constantly, often leaning contemporary, but still needing that solid, almost classical grounding for breath and support.
You need the foundation to build different styles on top.
Exactly. That core technique gives you the control and flexibility to switch styles without hurting yourself.
Debbie Filan's case study sounds like a great example of putting this into practice.
Yeah, working with a performer having vocal trouble. She didn't do a massive overhaul. It was about alignment, agreeing on the goal, and then making small tweaks to resonance, even to character choices, to make the singing more efficient and sustainable.
Fine-tuning, not rebuilding.
Sometimes that's all it takes, looking at the whole picture technique, performance demands, artistic choices.
And Liz Pascoe highlights the sheer endurance needed, 8 shows a week.
That's the big challenge, she thinks, maintaining technique under that pressure. Plus, the constant need now to cross into pop styles. You need both classical foundations and contemporary skills.
Especially, she says, a strong, reliable high belt.
Crucial these days. The demands are just incredibly high stamina, style switching. You need to be vocally robust and versatile. Doing it healthily, night after night, across genres, that's the mark of a pro today.
So we've talked tons about technique. But what about that connection piece, the acting? Joan Lader was really strong on this.
Oh, yeah. She basically said, no performance without it. Connection is everything.
And how does it link to technique again?
Yeah.
Acting, improving singing.
She finds that when a student really connects emotionally, really means what they're singing, it often improves things like articulation, phrasing, even breath support, almost automatically. The desire to communicate drives better technique.
The why improves the how.
You could put it that way. Jeanette Lavetrie is also huge on this. That emotional truth, she'll flat out tell students.
I've got to believe you, but I don't believe you.
Exactly. It has to feel genuine. Even perfect singing falls flat if the audience doesn't buy the emotion. It needs to come from the character's inner life.
Mary Hammond basically says if the emotion is there, the technique follows.
Pretty much. If you're truly connected, your body and voice often just do what's needed to express that emotion effectively. There's an intuitive link.
Pat Wilson loops back to the individual, right?
Sure.
Starting with their spirit.
Yeah, understanding the person, any mental or emotional blocks they might have, and helping them get the nuances between genres, trusting their own musical instincts.
It's not just a voice, it's a whole person singing.
Absolutely. Their emotional state, self-belief, artistry, it all feeds into the voice.
And Liz Pasco wraps it up nicely by reminding us every voice is unique.
Mm-hmm. So that diagnostic part of teaching, really figuring out this specific voice, its strengths, its needs, is essential. You can't use a cookie cutter approach.
It has to be tailored.
Totally. What works for one won't work for another. A good teacher assesses that unique vocal fingerprint and builds the training around it.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, it's been fascinating hearing from all these teachers. What are the big takeaways for you?
Well, a few things really stand out. First, you absolutely need that well-rounded technique. Alignment, breath, resonance, articulation, and that vital connection to the acting, the emotion. They're not separate things.
They all have to work together, integrated.
Exactly, for a seamless, believable performance. Second, the demands are constantly evolving. Musical theater singers today need incredible versatility across styles and serious vocal stamina.
8 shows a week is no joke.
Not at all. And finally, never underestimate the power of that emotional connection and individual expression. Technique is the foundation, yes, but it's the authentic emotion and the artist's unique voice that really connects with an audience.
You know, getting this peek into the unseen work, the sheer training involved, really changes how you might watch a musical, doesn't it?
Definitely gives you a deeper appreciation.
Yeah, for the artistry and the athleticism of these performers. So, for you listening, think about that next time you're in the theater. How does knowing a bit more about this hidden training deepen your experience? Which part of it all resonated most with you? Maybe something to mull over or even explore more.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Maybe think about what other kinds of unseen work go into the performances you love.